Welcome to the Smart Dating Academy podcast. I'm Bela Gandhi, the founder of Smart Dating Academy and your host. I started Smart Dating Academy in 2009 because I had this crazy knack of giving people dating advice that actually worked, that I took. I've been married for almost 25 years, and now my company helps people to date smarter and to find love. This podcast is meant to bring more love into your life, no matter where you are and what you do. And we're here to bring more life into your love. Smart daters, welcome back to the podcast. I am jumping out of my skin to introduce my friend to you. Well, I may not even need to introduce her because I think you probably all already know her. She's the midlife muse. Dr. Amanda Hanson is here with us, and we are going to talk about everything that has to do with being a woman, dating, love, self-worth, patterns that wreck your life, all of the things. So, Dr. Amanda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, let's just jump right in. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got to doing this soul-changing, life-changing work that you're doing for all of us.
Yeah, so I've been a clinical psychologist for almost 3 decades now. And after a period of time, I recognized that everything I'd been trained in clinical psychology when I was getting my doctorate is, like many systems, they did not study women when it came to the psychology of women. Just like medicine didn't study women, nor did psychology. It was deeply patriarchal. And so I started to get a sense after years and years of what we call like armchair therapy, where my clients were coming in session after session. I felt like there is something fundamental missing, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what was missing, but I knew it had something to do with the depth of womanhood and the somatic experience when we move our bodies and transmute energy through our bodies, not just through talking and verbal processing. So I started for myself kind of playing around with the different energies myself, using a lot more embodiment practices, and then I would start saying to my client, all right, stand up. And I would have them start doing things with movement-wise with me and tonal, with their voice and their throat chakra. And so much started happening that I realized we were not meant to just sit and verbally process as women. We are meant to emote through our experiences and turn them into renewable energy. And that's what really led me to step away from traditional psychology and into really taking ancient practices that women were using for thousands of years and merge them with modern day science for women. And that's essentially how it came to be. And I started sharing it. My kids helped me set up my social media a couple of years ago, and I started sharing with women around the world, and it became this huge movement very organically. Yeah.
First of all, congratulations. Like I said, you're beautiful, both outside and in. Tell us, I'm so fascinated. And I always love for our listeners to be like, oh my God, while they're listening to this. So can you share with us some of these techniques, maybe something somebody can do right now while they're sitting there? You can use me as a guinea pig. Feel free.
Well, one of the very first things I would suggest actually is putting a picture of yourself as your screensaver on your phone of when you were a little girl, anywhere between the age of 6, 7, 8. And every time you go to make a big decision in your life, and we're grabbing our phone so frequently. Every time you go to make a big decision in your life, centering her. And that girl who had all these dreams, all this belief in herself, didn't question whether or not she was worthy or capable. She had every belief in herself to remember and do it on behalf of her. So I think that's a really, really simple one, because a lot of them are much more intricate and complex to really share over something like an interview here. But that's a really beautiful baseline, just to remember and connect to the version of you who believed anything was possible before the world conditioned her to be terrified of herself and the world. So I would begin with something that simple.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is inspiring me right now. When you're listening to this episode has dropped. So on our Instagram, what we're asking you all to do is share your screensaver with your baby picture that you are going to put on today. and we will share it, and we're going to create a movement about all of us making decisions for baby us. I know exactly the picture I'm going to put on my screen. I was 4 years old, and I love this. And it was like, oh my gosh, right? It's like little tender, sweet you. So all of you, get your phones ready, snap a screenshot, tag me, tag Midlife Muse, and we're going to make this a movement this week.
I love this. And I call her, I refer to her in my work as your little maiden, right? And the moment you go to the mirror to be berating about yourself or to condescending to yourself, or you believe that you're not worthy in some aspect, would you tell her that? If she was sitting there and she was looking in the mirror, or if she had a big dream, would you turn to her and say, are you kidding me? You can't do that. You're useless. You're worthless. You're ugly. If you wouldn't say it to her, if you wouldn't squash her down, don't do it to yourself.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, post your photos in our stories. And I love that. Do you have a couple more that you can share with us? And then we're going to dive into patterns.
Yes, I would say every morning when I get up, before I turn my phone on, before I do anything, I go to the mirror. I've been doing this for several years now. I found a picture of my daughter when she was 9 months old that inspired me to do this. And she kind of scooched over to the mirror after I'd given her a bath, and she pulled herself up, and I snapped a picture. She was in complete awe and wonder looking at herself in the mirror. She just couldn't get enough. And I found the picture many years later. And I thought, after all this time working with women and knowing the experience of the average woman in front of a mirror, I wondered, when do we stop looking at ourselves like that? And I decided, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start doing that. It's been a few years now. Every morning I take myself to the mirror and I stand there in honor and in reverence of what reflects back. This has nothing to do about the three-dimensional version of me, my silver hair, wrinkles on my face. Has everything to do with the miracle, the literal miracle that is reflected back in that image. So I do this every morning, and then I open my emails. Then I make my coffee. Then I enter the world. But I don't let the world set the tone of how I feel about myself. I set the tone of how I feel about myself before I go into the world. So that's a shift. I have heard women, in all my years of teaching this, I've heard women say to me, Dr. Mena, I've been in therapy for 20 years, trying to love myself. I've been doing this for 3 months. I feel something on a level, on a soul level, I can't actually find the words to explain. I'm like, I know. Oh my
Gosh. Do you have, for those of us that have a hard time with that, because we've been so conditioned for 2, 3, 4 decades, looking in the mirror and picking out the gray hairs and the wrinkles and the bulges and the veins and all of the things. Is there a mantra we can look at in the mirror that we can say to honor ourselves? Like, can you give us a starting point?
Yeah, so first of all, you have to, before we get to the mantra, you have to understand and dissect. When you're going there and you are seeking messages that equate to a vein, a gray hair, a tired, eyes, whatever it is, when you go there, you have to understand what you're sourcing from. So you're already sourcing from contamination. You're already sourcing from not enoughness. So of course you're going to stand in the mirror and that's all you're going to see. When you go to the mirror, before you even, as you're walking there, you're sourcing from reverence. You're sourcing from awe. You're sourcing from wonder. So we can't just slap a mantra on top of it. What we have to do is we have to go to the root and understand where the cancer started. And we have to pull it out from the root. So it's on the walk to the mirror. I am going to be in awe and reverence. The fact that I even woke up this morning is such a miracle, right? So it's the energy, and then you stand there, and the moment the mind wants to go to, oh gosh, look, we bring it back to like awe and reverence, honor. This is what I'm here for. I'm going to stand here. And it does take, we didn't get to that place overnight, right? That was many, many decades of conditioning. So it doesn't go away overnight. We don't stand in front of the mirror after 3 days and say, oh, it didn't work for me. If you want to have a result, you have to be willing to keep showing up. And I call it staying power. You have to have the ability to learn how to stay with yourself over and over and over again. So none of my work is like a check mark, cheap fix, quick at all. None of it.
No, it's real. And like you're saying, you have to access deeply the emotions of reverence and awe and honor and gratitude for the gift of being alive for one more day, for the gratitude for the gift of being who you are and the gifts you bring to the world.
Yes, and I'd say absolutely, and I'd say it's even deeper than that. It's also coupling with understanding any single system that would ever make you stand in front of the mirror in beratement is a system that profits only when you hate yourself, only when you find flaw in what's in the reflection. That's how they make money. So when you understand the system underneath, you approach the mirror very differently. You approach the world as an aging woman very differently when you understand the system.
I love that. One of my best new practices in 2026 was waking, the minute my eyes open, it's like, oh, what a gift. I'm really grateful for this day. And I set my expectations. I expect amazing miracles to happen today.
Yes. Yes. Everywhere.
And it works.
It does.
But there's a lot that goes underneath that, to your point. It's not as simple as that, right? You kind of fix what's going on in your brain. Suddenly, as I say, it's like when you fix this, food starts to taste better. My car drives a little better. Everybody's a little nicer. So I love that you're bringing these incredibly concrete practices aware to us. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Well, a lot of the listeners, Dr. Amanda, that listen to the Smart Dating Academy podcast, I told you a little bit about what we do. So there are people listening to this podcast that, are wanting to find the lid to their pot. Maybe they have a lid, but they're like, I don't know if the lid fits just right. I don't know if this is good for me. Tell us a little bit about what you've seen in your practice about why we continue to do the same things over and over again in our love lives.
Well, usually because we're trying to complete a cycle somewhere along the way. There's a pattern that you inherited that you are trying to complete or come to closure on. And you're doing it subconsciously. So you keep picking what is familiar from childhood. You keep picking what is familiar from maybe a marriage that did not end well, because it's what you know. And so you think that that's the lane that you can swim in, and you're trying to have resolution around something. We're not consciously walking around hoping to marry, one of our parents that we have unfinished business with. We're not consciously walking around repeating the next man. I mean, sometimes you see women who are on the third man or, fourth husband, and it's a similar pattern. So it's really about helping them get underneath why they believe that closure has to happen with somebody else as opposed to an internal closure of that process. So helping women find closure to childhood wounds, because 99.9% of the time it is related to childhood wounds. So you don't have to do that repair in a relationship. You can do that within yourself. But we don't really teach women how to do that. So they keep thinking they have to seek it to have completion on that cycle. And there's just endless patterns of lack of worth, really and truly.
It's so interesting. I am a daughter and I have a daughter. And and it's like you realize, okay, well, this and this and this was done to me when I was a child. And then you think about, oh my gosh, what have I said to my kids that is going to be like the seed in their head that's going to plant that big, icky tree that it's going to take a lot of work to chop down again? I don't know. I have conversations with my kids that are 18 and 22, like, what would you talk to your therapist about? How did we mess you up? Like, tell us, like, how have we hurt you? Like, tell us, like, how can we love you better? So, you never know, but I think that just being aware that we all think that things were done to us and we don't think we do them to others. But I think it's given me a lot more perspective on my own parents
being a parent to go, my God, they did the best they could with the tools that they were given, right? I would think I was telling you a little bit in our before turning on, my parents are immigrants from India. My mom got married to a stranger when she was 20. He was 28. She basically came over here from the vibrancy of India and family everywhere to a freezing cold apartment in Cleveland, Ohio, with not a person around except the mailman. She literally would say, I would look forward to the mailman because I would see a human being. Right. Crazy stuff. So it's like you realize at a certain point, like, they didn't mean to. Like, I forgive them. And now I'm a grown up and I get to fix it. Is that a good perspective?
That's a beautiful perspective. It's always about every generation doing it one better. My mom, who's still alive, I talk to her about this all the time. I have a 23-year-old daughter and I have 3 sons as well, but I am here to break the cycle, and not because I want her to feel poorly for choices she made, but because I know more than she did back then. And I talk to her about it all the time. I'm like, Mom, my generation has access to things like YouTube, endless books. We can get involved in groups around the world with other women to talk about the commonalities. You did not have access to any of that. And you really did the best that you could. Right now, I also want to say, I think there's a fine line between, I have people who have definitely been, there was considerable harm or neglect happen.
For sure.
Trauma. So I also want to make space for and acknowledge, in the best and worst of situations, 2 things can be true at once. We can understand they did the best they could with what they had, and capital A-N-D. We can also feel really sad about what happened to us. And I wish it could have been different. One doesn't negate the other, right? And that's what I've had to help my mom understand, that just because I have sadness around things in my childhood isn't her burden to carry. It's just a reality, right? I'm not going to say that there were certain things that didn't really affect me and hurt. I'm not expecting her to do the healing around it. It's my job to do, and I have done. But I'm not also creating a blanket statement of like, well, you did the best you could with what you had, and rushing and bypassing into forgiveness, or as if certain things weren't really traumatizing.
No, it's so true. It is a huge and. You can forgive and it can still suck. And it'll still require you to have baby you on your screen. And look at yourself in the mirror and do all of the things to continue to honor and build yourself up.
That's right. Absolutely. It is our responsibility to do the healing. And we are the generation who has so much access. So it's really beautiful. And then the next generation, their job is going to be, how do we balance so much access almost in excess, now becoming so robotic? So they are, my daughter and I are having conversations that look very different than anything that I was having to consider or think about. So with all of the introduction of AI and robotics, it's going to be a whole new job for them too. I think for them, it's going to be about staying more human.
Well, it's funny. To your point, one of my friends is the chief scientific advisor at Match.com. And he was telling me a study that they recently ran with Match talking about Gen Z and how the majority of Gen Z wants to be in a happy relationship, wants to get married, but they don't feel like they're ready and they have to work on themselves. And he and I were just hypothesizing about, there's so much out there. When you and I were growing up, I'm guessing we're both Gen X-ish. Right. And it's like, throw some dirt in it. There was nothing out there. I had to go to the library to put my dating methods together, right? Because there was no internet. But now there's this profusion of information everywhere. It's like, well, I don't know. I think my attachment system is blah, blah, blah. Like, I hear my daughter and her friends talking about who's avoidant and who's secure and who might be anxious avoidant, because that was a lot of trauma. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so for them, it's this like, oh, well, I have to be really ready. I'm like, yes, it's great to be self-aware, but at a certain point, when I talk to my kids, they're like, well, when did you know you were ready to have kids? I'm like, I still don't know whether I'm ready to have kids.
So true, right?
I'm not sure I'm ready to be a mom. And they're like, ha ha. I'm like, you just, at a certain point, you're like, okay, ready, run, jump, and you jump off the ledge and you hope your chute pops up as you're going down.
I agree. And I even think the awareness of when, do I have enough information? Do I know? That already signals to me you're a curious person. You're going to resource your way through it, because sometimes good enough is actually good enough. And I'll tell you, there's no book I could have ever read that would have prepared me. Every one of these 4 children needed something very different. And it was an experiment, and I was learning as I went, and I made mistakes. And I don't think they even humanized me until they were in their early 20s, quite honestly. Because they saw me as the mom. The mom is supposed to know all, be all, not be human, never make a mistake, meet every possible emotional need they ever have. And then as they mature and came into their own adulthood, they were able to express and share, like, Mom, how did you do that? We are all 4 of us are so different. But there could have been nothing that could have readied me for that. I think as long as you have a curious and open personality, and you have a willingness to admit that you're not going to know it all, and you're going to have to learn as you go. And I don't know. I think at some point we can almost get paralyzed in this over-reading and over-analyzing too much.
I couldn't be in like a higher level of agreement on this. And you said something interesting that I just wanted to talk about with regards to patterns, right? Everybody talks about like, well, if you're avoidant or you're anxious or you're secure, or all the things that obviously have a profound impact in how we choose partners. But do you feel that there's something more at play than just what our parents were like, right? I have 2 kids that are 18 and 22. Same parents, same uterus, same food, same oxygen in this house in Chicago, and yet 2 totally different beings. Do you feel, Dr. Amanda, that there's more to that there's a genetic component that we're not talking about?
Absolutely. I think so. I think everyone comes into the world with their own incredible pattern that has come together. Because also we have to understand, if we really want to dissect it, even when they were in utero at a different time in your life. You were going through and experiencing different things, whether it was emotional stuff, whether it was viruses, whether it was stress levels, that impacts. But I do deeply believe that every person is put together in such a way that they've got these unique special offerings and talents, and the way that they see the world. And I don't know if you have 2 girls or a girl and a boy, their experiences of the world are going to be different simply through the lens by which the world responds to them. Out in the world, they're going to come to young adulthood with different viewpoints, for sure, and ways of being and approaching and dealing and coping. It's fascinating.
It is. It's so complex and layered. And I'm so grateful to be able to have this opportunity to take my armchair theories of what I see. It's like, well, this is classic attachment. I'm like, yeah, but it seems like they're missing one big thing in this. It's not just mom and dad. It's like, well, how did you relate to your parents?
Yeah.
Is also another thing. And I do have a girl and a boy. So my girl is a senior in college, about to graduate. My son is a senior in high school. So yes, 2 totally different perspectives, and their genders are different. The way they see the world is different. So it's...
Yeah, their experiences of being alive and moving in the world are different, for sure.
Oh my gosh, 100%. So, with regards to people that are out there that are dating, right? They're listening to this. Is there something that you can tell them that continues to give them patience, positivity, and perseverance as they go through this? Because dating can be a test of even the greatest self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. I would say the biggest advice, if I were to give, and if I were to ever find myself single, I really have no interest in ever dating or being with anyone after this. I think one time was
one and done.
Yeah, I'm going to just travel the world with all of my girlfriends and my, kids. But I would say, do not perform when you are out there, from the very first text exchange, from the very first date, from the very first phone call. Be your most authentic version of you. Stop gauging for what you think the person wants to hear or the way you think they want you to show up. You know, this whole idea of like putting my best foot forward, I think is a real misnomer, and is in many ways, it always amazes me when women perform and then are shocked that he's somehow disappointed 6 months or a year in, when the performance actually goes out the window. And I'm like, well, what did you think was going to happen? Like, you sold him a bill of goods. You showed up in a way that is not completely authentic to you. Like, a really small example would be the girl who's like, I love football. Oh my gosh, yes, I love watching football on Sundays, when in fact, she really can't stand it. But she's trying to please and she wants to spend time with him. So she's performing, enjoying this thing that she's really not, and eating, you know, all this food that she can't stand. And listening to him scream at the TV all day. And then they get married and he's perplexed, like, what the hell? I thought you loved watching games all day back to back to back. What do you mean now you want to go out in the world and do stuff? Right? So we start to have a breakdown in the system when you perform certain ways of being that are not natural to you, even in the clothing choices you make. So the more authentic and real and honest and forthcoming you can be from the very beginning, then you're going to likely match with someone who's going to be more on the same wavelength as you. And I don't know, I can't think of anything worse than going out there and performing. And then how exhausting is that? Then every day you've got to wake up and perform for the likability, perform to be chosen another day. Absolutely exhausting.
No, I completely agree. I always tell our clients, you want to be the best version of yourself, right? Be curious, be interested, be interesting, be warm, right? And that's all you can do is think about, okay, how do I feel when I'm around this person? And don't ignore that, because your gut is good, especially after you've been trained in our system. You know what to look for. Make the other person feel good about themselves, and then come what may, because here's the truth of the matter. Most people aren't right for us. Mm. Even when you look at 6 photos on a dating app and 200 characters, and maybe you've had some witty repartee back and forth, and you've had a video chat, and then you end up in front of this person, and you're like, why didn't they ask me out a second time? I'm like, who cares? That this person wasn't right for you. Let's move on, onwards.
And I always tell my clients, if on the first, second, third date, I mean, for me, it would be a showstopper on the first date. And I think there's some qualifying questions. I personally would ask, if my daughter was single, we talk about, she's been in a long-term relationship, but if she were single, we talk about certain questions we would ask on the very first date. I would very clearly know.
What are they?
Tell us. I don't know. It could get a little controversial.
That's okay. We love a little controversy here. We want to hear you, the authentic you.
Yes, I will share that in just a moment. I would say, if he's not asking, and he or she is not asking any questions about you on the very first date, to me, absolute done deal. If you don't ask me, I hear from women who are like, he wouldn't stop talking about himself the entire dinner date. He didn't even ask me but one thing about myself. And when I did, he cut me off mid-sentence. Red flag immediately. If he's not interested and curious and willing to learn about you on the very first date, you know everything you know about this person. So no second date. Just showstopper right there. But I would say, I would ask a question about the theory, back when we were talking about, well, let's just be honest. I can even fast forward it to right now. I would ask about, what is your take on the Epstein files? And I would sit there and I would gauge the reaction as to whether or not there was a second date. And if it was pretty laissez-faire, or it was things like, well, but I don't know if we have enough proof, or how do we know those women are telling the truth, or anything like that.
Oh my God.
Like I know people say, done. I would get up from the table that moment, right? So I would be gauging for that. I would say, hey, did you hear about the man versus bear theory in the woods? Oh no, I haven't heard about that. Let me tell you about it. I would proceed to tell them, and are they curious? Do they lean in and say, oh wow, I never thought about that. Tell me more. Or, oh gosh, more women said they'd rather be in the woods with a bear than a man. Oh my gosh, I wonder why.
Every woman on earth says she'd rather be in the woods with the bear than a man. My husband, The four of us have had hilarious nights discussing this. My daughter and I are like bear all day long. My husband's like, well, what if there was a guy like me in the woods? I'm like, why would you be in the woods by yourself? Why?
Yeah.
Red
And
flag.
my sons, we had a big discussion about this because I have 3 sons in their 20s, and they all can understand why, because they were raised by me, in our home, but also they were devastated and really sad and embarrassed that was what women said. They understand, but they were really like, this is awful. That this is how women think about us. And it's so embarrassing. We have to do so much better. I just think there's lots of opportunities. So if you don't have somebody who is willing to lean in and understand more, you have an answer right there, right? And then there's just other questions I would ask as far as women's rights go and many things that are going on in the world politically. I would get a pulse. I mean, it's a great time to be dating. You can learn everything you need to know on the first date, if you're going to see the person or not. It's actually never been so clarifying.
When I first started the business in 2009, right? People were actively online at that point. Back in 2010, 2011, it's like, it didn't really matter. It's like you could have a Mary Madeline and a James Carville, and they could date across the aisle, and they could take their, little banter and turned it into a roadshow, which they did. I saw it. It was hilarious. But today, it's very much more, we're so much more polarized, to your point. I see people on both sides of the spectrum, right? And it's like, I don't want to date people that believe in this, or I don't want to date people that believe in this, in a way that just did not exist when I first started the business. But to your point, okay, if that's the underbelly, the good news is you find out a whole lot right away that you might have taken 6 months to find out back in 2011.
Exactly. And I think we're far past political differences. We're now talking about basic humanity, and what you believe about someone being human and hierarchy. And so, yeah, I think it's a great time. Get out there and ask away on the first date and get super crystal clear.
Well, to your point, and for those of you, we jumped right into the man versus the bear thing. Let me give it one little bit of context. There was I don't know if it was an internet poll or something that went viral on TikTok and Instagram. Like, ladies, would you rather find yourself in the woods alone with a man, a stranger, or a bear? And the majority of women said bear. If you're a woman, no one needs to explain to you why we all said that. So just to put a little bit of context around that. And to the dating world, when people ask me about dating safety, right? And I'm huge on safety. We've had 0 incidences, 0 divorces in 16 years because we're very proactive and making sure people are doing the right things. If you don't have a Google Voice number, get one, voice.google.com. Then you don't have to give out your cell phone number to any randos. But with regards to this dichotomy, Dr. Amanda, of women want chivalry, right? We all do. Who doesn't like a little bit of chivalry? And men being polite. But then it comes to the point where a man will say, can I pick you up for a date? Mm-hmm. Right? And how we tell our clients, right? Number one, 99.9% of men are good men, but it is your responsibility to keep yourself safe. So thank him that is so nice of you to offer. I'm really good getting myself there, right? And I teach people, assume positive intent, right? Our first minds want to go to, how are you trying to screw me? What's wrong with this, right? I'm like, anytime somebody says something to you, pause, assume positive intent, then respond. So I had a client who had a guy ask, they lived in Boulder, Colorado, and he said, can I pick you up for the date? And she says, no, I'm good getting myself there. So 4 days later, and he set up a tea tasting for them. How cute is that? She doesn't drink. I was like, what a great date. He asked her again the night before the date, are you sure you don't want me to pick you up? She texted me, Bella, old me would have lost my shit and said, I told you I'm good getting there. Why don't you understand this? And I would have assumed all sorts of bad intention from this guy. She's like, I paused. I assumed positive intent. What would Bella say? Okay, he's being chivalrous. She said, you know what? So nice of you to offer. I'm good. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And you know what? It was an amazing date. She's like, I would have blown it.
So beautiful. And it's so heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking that we are in this place, that we even have to wonder if it's safe to get in the car with them. I mean, I think that's the even bigger conversation. What a beautiful job you're doing guiding them through this. And I do think that ultimately the woman has to follow her instinct. Assume best intent, absolutely, and follow your instinct until you know. The reality is, it is a stranger, right?
It's a stranger. Assume positive intent. Don't lose your shit. Still say no.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Don't assume he might be a gross serial killer, but the large majority of the probability says he's not. So be kind, be gracious, assume that's coming from a good point, but still say no.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing. And she's like, I would have made this really nice guy feel like an idiot. I would have seemed like a crazy lunatic. And she's like, instead, it was a great date. They went on 4 dates. He wasn't for him. But she's like, I set him up with a friend of mine.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So trusting your gut is really important in dating.
Huge.
And I think it's also wise to say, do I have these buttons that can get pushed really quickly because I've had things happen to me in the past? Have a conversation with yourself and then say, how do I get help around this? Or how do I try not to bring this into my present and my future?
It's so true. It's really about us being radically responsible for noticing where we have reactivity, understandably, from past trauma or incidences, but then not contaminating the person who, before we even have a chance to know them or give them a fair shot. Right. And this works in established relationships. It's always my job to look at what's going on for me internally and make sure I'm doing the work around that. So I'm not contaminating my husband, my children, my clients, my friends, it's the people that work for me. It's so important that we always are taking that role of like, okay, this is actually mine. This is mine too. And I use the word emotional hygiene, to have emotional hygiene around this so that I'm like, if we're not brushing our teeth and we don't have good oral hygiene, when we open our mouths, we contaminate, all that bacteria comes out on everyone else and they can smell that, see that. It's our job to make sure we do our oral hygiene. It's an inside job. No one else can do it for us. Same with our emotions. And if we're practicing daily emotional hygiene, we're not saying that there aren't things that need to be taken care of. We're recognizing that there are, but we're making it our work to do so that we're not contaminating the people who did not cause the harm.
No, you're so right. And when we do that and we realize, oh my gosh, I was out of line when I said that, the first thing to do is get that person and say, I'm really sorry for the way I handled that. That this is a me problem. It wasn't a you problem.
Absolutely.
I define life as it's a me problem or it's a you problem.
Yes.
It starts with one of us. I'm like that. I say this to my kids a lot. This is a you problem.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
And sometimes they will say to me, this is a you problem. I'm like, no, you're right. This is a me problem. I need a few minutes to go back to my corner and think about why this is a me problem right now.
Yes. It's the most beautiful way to adult and be in relationships with people, is just to be able to own that. And again, have that level of responsibility for knowing what's yours.
You have so many beautiful things that you've already shared. Is there anything more that you would like to kind of leave the listener with something they can kind of be better today?
I would think about the fact that, I see women outsource or try to achieve feeling loved through trading out their worthiness. Like they're bartering. Am I worthy of this person? Am I worthy of this love? Am I worthy? Am I worthy? Am I worthy? I see this over and over show up in so many ways for women in the world of dating and love and every other aspect of their lives. But I would say to really do the work around, again, circling back to where we started, this little maiden in you, understanding that your worth is not up for negotiation. You were born worthy. The fact that you are even here is beyond explanation and miracle, that you, as you exist in this moment in time, when you can understand that and you can think about that newborn baby version of you, you would never be negotiating with this baby. Well, you've got to earn your right to be fed. You've got to earn your right for rest. You're going to have to earn your right for love. You would never. You would just see this as like, oh my gosh, this baby is so worthy of everything in the world. When we can connect back to that version of ourselves, we will understand that we are worthy of rest. We are worthy of respect. We are worthy of love and joy and safety and reciprocity in relationships. We are worthy of all of it. You are never asking for too much. So I think go out into the world, be your most authentic self, and understand that you are so beyond worthy of everything that it is that you desire in relationship. And you're not asking too much.
And if you find yourself going back and saying, am I being too needy? Like, is it too much to expect? Blah, blah, blah. Guess what? That is you questioning your worth. Ask the little maiden. If you were advising a 4-year-old, what would you say? No, you know what? It's too much to expect him to show up to a date when he said he would. What?
Right.
What? Right. No, it's not. When somebody says we're exclusive, right? Is it okay that he's out on a date with someone else? That's not okay.
No.
That's not okay. Don't accept the crumbs because you're worth the whole damn pie.
Yes, absolutely. I always tell women, stop feasting on the dry breadcrumb and pretending it's a whole entire meal. You have the feast within you. Learn to feast there, and then you will understand and expect it from out there. Plus many desserts as well. So we've got to train women up to stop convincing themselves that one dry breadcrumb they're choking down without a glass of water is a full meal. It's
oh my God.
Pathetic.
I'm just wondering, we're such kindred spirits. How is it that we're just meeting today?
I don't know. How is it even possible that I was available for this? Like, that never even happens. I was like, you know what? Let me make that work.
Okay, God winks. I love this. We were supposed to connect. Well, Dr. Amanda, you're friggin' fantastic. Tell us where we can get more of you and about this magical event that's taking place in October.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me at Midlife Muse on Instagram, on TikTok, I'm mainly on Instagram. And yes, I have a live event that happens once a year. It's been in Europe. It's been all over the US. It's coming to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, October 4th and 5th, 6th and 7th. I don't even know. Let me look. I have so much going on. I don't even know my own, but it's the, like you and I were talking about before, it is the concert meets dance party meets the place where I take women on this entire arc of their lifetime, from the time they were in utero all the way until the day that they die. And we go on this phenomenal journey of the full expansiveness of womanhood. And you will leave there a changed in the best way. And I think there's never been a time, it's October 3rd and 4th. It's called Magnetic, and you can find it on my website, amandahanson.com. Tickets are selling like crazy right now, so I would suggest if you're interested, get a ticket before it sells out. It is a beautiful 2 days where you meet women who come from all around the world. Last year we had women from Australia and Pakistan, all over Europe. It is so extraordinary, and I think there has never been a time, well, I'm sure women have always said this, but there's never been a time for us currently where we have needed womanhood and sisterhood more than we need it now. And I really believe in all of my work over the decades, women change and grow in that quantum space where they are all together. If you harness that level of energetic under one roof in 2 days, what happens in women's lives, the declarations, the ahas, the breakthroughs, the new friendships forged, all the new tools they walk away with, it is a life-changing, radical, somewhat provocative experience.
I'm so glad you were born.
Oh, I am too. Thank you. I feel so, I've answered a really divine appointment as you have, and it feels like such an honor every day to wake up and serve women every single day.
It's the biggest gift. The biggest gift. It's a gift that I can tell from your soul that you don't take it for granted, not for a minute.
None of it.
Ditto. Ditto. Well, thank you from the bottom of my heart for agreeing to do this show. I'm excited to do yours. I'm just excited that we were put in the same space. This was totally karmic, meant to be. And we will 100% have you back again to talk about magnetic. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. Let's do it. Thank you, Bella, so much.
Smart daters, thank you for tuning in. And until our next episode, I send you a giant dose of psychotic optimism. Remember, the lid to your pot is out there. You finding love is a when, not an if. And if you find yourself ready to be wrapped in pink, sparkly bubble wrap to do the dating process, you know where to find us. Go to smartdatingacademy.com and fill out a contact form, and we will talk.